Hi, welcome to day 7 of our 12 days of Christmas, where we're digging in a little bit more into the Christmas story and some of the stories shortly thereafter to kind of get a deeper picture of some of the stuff that happened in Jesus' life in those early days. So today we're looking at the christening or the baptism moment, or the naming day for Jesus. So this is one of the things in my window right here. That's why I'm over by the window. And this is one of my decorations that I kind of put in my office during this time of year. And I show you that because this story of Jesus's naming day happening comes just 8 days after he was born. And so Mary and Joseph take Jesus to the temple to have him circumcised, have him officially given the name Jesus. And there's something really interesting happens. A man named Simeon, who is pretty well known, comes by and gives this prophecy. So I'm going to read that for you real quick. This is from Luke 2:25, and I'm going to stop at 27. A man named Simeon was in Jerusalem. He was righteous and devout. He eagerly anticipated the restoration of Israel, and the Holy Spirit rested on him. The Holy Spirit revealed to him that he wouldn't die before he had seen the Lord's Christ. Led by the Spirit, he went into the temple area. Meanwhile, Jesus' parents brought the child to the temple so that they could do what was customary under the law. So this is a two-part. This first day, we're just going to kind of talk about who Simeon was. The second part, we'll talk about what he said and what that impact was. So Simeon traditionally is this picture of an older gentleman, usually seen as very old, mostly because we assume that he is old like Anna was old. We also make some assumptions that since the Holy Spirit revealed to him that he wouldn't die before he'd seen the Lord's Christ, that it's been a long time. But nothing is ever mentioned about his actual age. This also would fit very strongly with Simeon being a warrior of great renown. There were a handful of people called the Sicarii, or the knife, who were resisting the Roman rule and were trying to find a way to remove Rome from Israel, specifically Jerusalem, but the whole country. And this fits very well that this might have been one of the reasons why Simeon was so well known. So specifically, if you look at this story, it says, one, that he was righteous and devout, so he's a holy man, which would make sense why he'd been seen on the temple plenty of times. Then two, that he wouldn't die before he had seen the Lord's Christ. In my head, I picture Simeon as a grizzled veteran, someone who has seen quite a few battles and has gained notoriety for his fighting ability, for his ability to survive when other people couldn't. And to me, Simeon is a veteran. And he's one of these older vets that, as he has had this prophecy, that other people got behind him. That the younger soldiers, the other people trying to fight for independence, that they would have seen him as a great herald, a great holy man of war. And that's the faith and leadership and battle has been really typical throughout the Old Testament. We have King David, we got King Saul, we have kings that led, who were anointed by God, who led their troops in battle. And so having a grizzled veteran who does not die, who has seemed to be able to miraculously avoid death, is quite the thing. So it would make complete sense for this grizzled veteran who has come upon the mount to be so well known amongst the Israelites that they would hand the baby over to him. Because that's been one thing that always bothered me about this passage is you never met this guy, and he walks over and asks to touch the Son of God. Now, I've seen, we've got 4 kids, and with our first kid, we were especially touchy about who we let near the baby. First-time parents, we can be a little overprotective. Although, depending these day and age, it's just regular parenting. It's not even seen as overprotective anymore. But you wouldn't let a stranger hold your baby. And back in the day, I imagine there was even more pressure if that baby was the son of God, that if somebody were to just take off running, you kind of mess everything up. But he's so well known that Joseph and Mary let him hold the baby. Now, Jesus is the Christ, the anointed one. And you may have heard me talk about this before, but the biggest thing that makes Jesus so important is not that he is the Christ, the anointed one, because that title has been used throughout Jewish history. King David was anointed, King Saul was anointed, Nebuchadnezzar was anointed. And so what it means is that these people have been set aside for leadership. Specifically, the big reason why Jesus is so important is not the title of Christ. It's the title, it is the fact that he is the Son of God. But to a battle-hardened veteran, the Christ, the Messiah, the leader, the anointed one would be the one that most of the people who were looking for the consolation of Israel or the restoration of Israel, to them that meant a battle-hardened general. It meant someone who would lead them to take their lands back. And so you have some real interesting things playing right here. One is that there's this sense that Jesus is going to change everything, that nothing is going to be left the same anymore, but also that the people are hurting, that the whole community knows of this grizzled veteran. There's this sense of trying to fight for their independence again. And so it's just kind of one of those interesting, reasonable possibilities for who Simeon is. He may also have just been a very, very, very old man, and everyone knew him throughout generations. But that even though that works in this situation, we don't have anything about his age in the Bible. And as one of my professors in seminary said, if it's not in there, why are you teaching it? So this is just one way to see it. It doesn't mean that he wasn't really old, but I picture that from my time in the Army, I remember that if you met a guy with gray hair, without being able to see their rank, you automatically knew they'd been through some stuff. And so you deferred to those guys, whether they had they were an E5 sergeant, or if they were a sergeant major or a lieutenant colonel or a general even. When there's gray in the hair, then you knew you needed to listen because they'd lived through quite a few things, and it's quite a few years behind someone's belt before they can hit that too. So I believe that is a big part of Simeon's notoriety. Anyway, tomorrow we will dig into what he said and what happened when he met Jesus. But I just wanted to kind of place that before you today. What if Simeon was a great warrior and a well-known freedom fighter, and everyone around knew him? Kind of an intriguing thing to think about, is it not? Well, I hope today brought you a new perspective, and I hope you find great peace in God's love.